Good evening and welcome back to the channel. So we're going to check out Coromon today. I've pretty heavily edited the footage, tried to cut out a lot of the stuff that's just storyline portions. So we start out about 5 minutes in at the point where you're picking your first Coromon. This is a creature collector, very reminiscent of old school Pokemon. And the reason why I say it's very reminiscent of old school Pokemon is because it's actually kind of hard, like old school Pokemon. Not hard in the sense that it's impossible to do, but hard in the sense that you really can't just hyper level one Coromon and use it to dominate the whole game, at least not easily. Experience gain is pretty well balanced so that it's a challenge to get super far ahead with just one. Also, elemental differences actually matter a lot more in this game. And if you notice right here, I'm actually looking at my Coromon that were available, and there's 3 categories. There's normal, or common, then there is one category above common, which is potent, and then above that is perfect. Now, this replaces the shiny system in Pokemon. So you may be thinking, well, in Pokemon, it's just an aesthetic thing. In this game, you kind of want to try to get at least a potent one because you gain secondary stats at certain leveling points. And the higher the potency of your Coromon, the faster you gain these. So in other words, the more secondary stat points you get. Now, I'm not 100% certain how much it affects it to pick up the potency early on, like whether there's a way for you to gain those back or not, but there is a way to improve the potency of your Coromon. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But you see how he popped up shiny just now? That tells me he's potent. So you'll get the little sparkles even whenever you're encountering wild ones, and that tells you that they're more potent than normal. What you're looking for in the starters is that their value is 100 over 24. And that's because that tells you that it's at the highest potency that it could be before perfect. It comes into play later when it comes to upgrading potency. That means you only have to upgrade it 1 level to get it to be perfect. And the system that lets you upgrade can only be done once per Coromon, and it will randomly give you between 1 and so many other levels. So obviously the more levels you need, the harder it is to get. So if you can at least grind until you get a potent one that's at 100/24 point, that's an indicator that it's at 20 out of 21 and it only needs the 1 level. So you're guaranteed to make it perfect. So then it shoots you into a tutorial battle. The combat system in this is just Pokemon. You have moves, you have SP. Granted, you don't have to use items to refill their power so that they can use their attacks. You can actually have them rest and they'll recover half of their energy. Feels a little tight in this game. Like you can somewhat burn through your SP at a decent pace. To the point where if the battle's actually protracted, like you're not using elemental differences to gain an advantage and grind through your opponent, then you will probably run out of SP and have to do the rest thing, or rotate in a different Coromon. It's not really that big a deal. The combat's actually pretty complicated. Why is there no background music, by the way? I cut it out because I actually started recording this a long time ago, and I only showed you a small number of the resets for me to try to get a potent starter. It's actually like, I don't know, 10 hours worth of footage of resets. So I didn't think it would be fun to put you through 10 hours worth of me compressing that video footage down. So we just jumped ahead and I only did a couple of them. But I started recording this, I don't know, probably not long after I started working on Pal World. So it has been a while. This is an example of the stat gains that you get. You gain 3 points per level, but you gain those levels faster the higher your potency is. So you gain more overall. Now, the stat distribution is actually something that's kind of fun to figure out. You saw the thing where you can postpone giving the stats to them. That's so you can level them a couple levels and see what their stats are that grow particularly well. If you end out with a perfect Coromon, you'll end out with enough points to max out, I believe it's 3 separate categories. So you can figure out what their 3 best stats are, or what the 3 that you want to invest the most into, and get those capped off. So, fun system. Lots of micromanagement. There's a lot of different elements. During combat, you can actually click into the opponent's Coromon information. And by that, I mean you can actually click on the name of the Coromon, and it will pull up their info. And that includes what their weaknesses are. Granted, you have to learn what the different symbols are, and there's like 13 different elements. But if you hover over them, it gives you enough info that you can kind of figure it out. So even if you can't remember the elemental system, it gives you enough info in game that you'll be able to gain whatever bits of information that you're missing and do it on your own. FYI, you get a free patter bit. It can be shiny. It's not guaranteed to be shiny. Not necessarily worth your time to grind it out, since it's a relatively easy one to find early on. All right, so as far as catching goes, to me, it feels like it's not as hard to catch them. See, here's a wild shiny on the PC version as it is on the mobile version, because this is both a mobile and PC game, and the mobile game came up first. At least I believe it came up first. It's a good game, but there's a few relics in the PC version that you can see from the mobile version. I enjoy the mobile version. It's relatively cheap. I would actually recommend going that route if you're interested in this game, because there's a demo. Problem is, there are microtransactions in the mobile one that don't exist in the PC one, and I'm not 100% certain that they properly rebalanced some of the systems in the game to account for the lack of microtransactions. There's nothing that it feels like it really pressures you in the mobile game to spend money, but there are things that could make it a little bit more of a simple experience if you want to drop a couple dollars on it, because like I said, it's a $1 or $2 game. So if you buy an $8 microtransaction, you gain some items that can either help you get extra skins, or you can gain an item that will let you increase the potency automatically. This is me showing a trick, because you're in the lab, the dude in the upper right, you talk to him, you give him your Coromon, then you have to walk like it's 1,000 steps. So there's one little trick you can do to set the guy up to do an infinite glitch in the escalator. All right, I set this up and let it run overnight. Then when I came back, it had only improved his walking by like 12%. I went into the game settings and amplified the speed, like put it on maximum speed, maximum walking speed, maximum gameplay speed, and was able to walk back and forth for 5 minutes, and then I had my potency upgrade. So don't do the glitch. Just bump up your game speed and walk back and forth. It's way faster. The glitch is not even fast if you're doing it offline and like while you're in bed. It's significantly faster just to do it by hand. So we jump ahead a little bit to what is functionally the first trainer dungeon, so to speak. You know, this game doesn't have trainers that you go up against. Instead, what happens is you're facing off against what they call titans. So there's an elemental titan, more or less, for each element. And there's various storyline reasons why you're having to go face these guys to earn their essence. I'm not going to dive into that too much, but right now I'm working my way through the series of dungeons that actually leads up to that guy. And there is one particular puzzle that is going to eventually require having a relatively well-leveled electric-based Coromon. So I came back here to swap it out and get an electric one so that I can be leveling it up. There is an XP share sort of item, but you actually have to get the items and hand it to them and let them hold it. And even then, it only gains, I think the largest one I found so far is 20%. So you really have to go back to a more old school Pokemon method of rotating through what you're opening up with, because your starter in the fight gains an equal chunk, I think, to whatever you rotate in. It may gain slightly more. I haven't paid enough attention to the numbers to know. I know the more you bring out, the more it dilutes how it spreads the XP around. But elemental weaknesses are super important. You can see right now I have a level 7 ground type going up against a level 9 electric type, and that ground move did significant damage. So here I'm showing off that you can actually pull that up and see the various weaknesses. And electric are both weak to ground and cut. So think about it like snipping a wire. So my lower level Coromon was able to pretty easily take out a higher level one because it has an elemental advantage, so type advantage. Type advantages are significant in this. The actual strategy in Coromon is pretty high level. You can go in and modify the settings in this game to make the game a little bit easier or a little bit harder. I'm pretty sure by default it has all the settings that you can go in to basically turn it into a Nuzlocke, but the rules be actually enforced by the game. So if you've ever wanted a much more in-depth, modern take on Pokemon, but with a focus on actually having some thoughtful gameplay, this would be it. And the storyline, despite starting out as sort of the stereotypical Pokemon story where you can clearly tell it really intends for you to be a kid at home rather than what I basically made my guy into, which was a NEET that's going out on his first adventure. It's, I would say, a more mature storyline. I haven't finished the game yet. I don't know if it stays that way, but I would imagine it does, because I don't think this is specifically meant to be aimed at kids. I think it's meant to be friendly for all ages, but it's also meant to be entertaining for all ages, because this is being developed by people that grew up with Pokemon as well. Now, granted, this stuff is pretty different. I actually think it is an example of why people are so pissed off at the Pokemon company, because it does do a few things that are relatively innovative in terms of, the potency system, the ability to upgrade it, the fact that it actually does have some impact on it, but not such a significant one that, other than the ones you want in your party, you don't really have to worry about getting a perfect one. And the difference in advantage from potent to perfect is so minimal that you don't absolutely need a perfect Coromon. So you could settle for potent and do everything you need to do in the game. Realistically, you could probably beat the main story with just straight up standard ones, but potent is not so rare that it's prohibitively difficult to farm it up. If you find one that you really like, you can get a potent one. Also, in this game, if you run into a higher level version of the current Coromon that you're playing, you might as well catch it and replace the one that you have, because there's no advantage to sticking with the lower level Coromon. So if you find a higher level one, you can simply catch it, swap it out for the one in your party, and all you have is a higher level one at that point. Attacks, you don't have to use the things to train the moves. It's more like the more recent Pokemon games where you can just go in and select which attacks you want them to actually use. You're limited to 4 maximum, but you can pick them out as they gain more than 4. You just go in manually and select which ones you want. One thing I will give a heads up on, because I know this matters to some people, where it started out as a mobile game, you can even do click and drag and have a virtual joystick to play with. It is very clear that more or less what it feels like it's playing is as if it's the mobile game running on an emulator. It still runs well, it looks good, it plays well. Don't think that takes away from it. But they did just direct port it and then cut out the microtransactions. The cosmetic shop and the daily rewards are still in there that give you the gems and things that you need to buy the cosmetics. But there were things in the mobile game that were meant to accelerate those systems. And as far as I can tell, I just can't see anything so far that has accelerated it in this game. I'm not far enough in at this point to definitively say that there is nothing that replaces them, and there's no alternate way to do it. But I've done a little bit of searching to try and figure out if anything like that ever pops up, and as far as I can tell, it never does. And most of what I see, the discussions around this, seem to be based off of the PC version. I don't see a whole lot of discussion about the mobile version anymore, although one of the reasons why I'm pushing this video out so fast, even though I'm not even close to done with this game, is I'm enjoying playing it on my phone more than I am the PC. It's a really fun game to just pull up and mess around with for 5 or 10 minutes while you have a little bit of free time. pop off a save, and then go back away. By the way, this is what my guy looks like whenever he's upgraded to perfect. I actually kind of like the potent skin a little bit better, which you can select to make it go back to that visual appearance. That is one cool thing about this. All the different visual appearances, if you unlock them, you can choose to use them. You don't have to stick with what the appearance is for the one that you have. Anyway, one of the reasons why I've been letting this background footage of this final dungeon go in so much is because the encounter rate is incredibly high. There's a few ways to mitigate it when you have things like grass and whatnot, but the encounter rate can make the game a little bit of a challenge. Like you saw right there, I just stood still for just a moment and then moved some stuff and walked forward. And realistically, if I weren't trying to grind Moffle up a bit, once I get my team a little bit more balanced out in terms of levels, I actually do just start running away from fights. And that's a very viable strategy. Whenever it seems like it's easier to escape when you have a higher level Coromon. Also, during dungeons, when you hit certain key points, it gives you a checkpoint, and you can go back through a door. Like there's a halfway point in this one, and when you try to go back through the door to go to the previous floor, it gives you the option to either go back to the previous floor or go straight to the door. And then you can, when you come into the entrance, you can choose to go straight to the checkpoint. So it is harder, but it does put things in to compensate for that. The puzzles are more interesting. The first boss was a very good fight and actually ended up chewing through a good chunk of my team before I finally took it down. So this isn't as easy of a game as Pokemon is, but it's harder in a fun way. And I'm not going to do the whole dumb Dark Souls comparison. Like, this isn't the Dark Souls of creature catchers. It's just a creature catcher that actually has a reasonable difficulty to it. That you don't have to self-impose any sort of rules on it, but you actually can if it's not hard enough for you. So, would I recommend Coromon? Absolutely. Do I think that it's the absolute best creature catcher I've ever played? No. But it's super cheap. They're also getting ready to come out with a sequel. Or, I don't know if they're getting ready to come out with it, but I know they have announced they're working on one. So, it's in the pipeline, and I would imagine it won't do anything but improve. Because they're starting with a really solid foundation. And as long as they put a little bit of work into it and do a little bit more to refine the game than what the Pokemon Company currently does with Pokemon, then their sequel is going to be an excellent game. And I could see them finding ways to take out some of the tedium that's in it from it being a little bit more heavy on the grindy side than a lot of recent creature catcher type of things. But whatever, the game is fun overall. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to get back to actually working on my file on my phone. But the PC one was fun to play around with a little bit to test out some alternate strategies and see if I can do things better on the PC while I was working my way to the end of it. As one final thought, games like this are the reason why you should really hope that Nintendo loses its lawsuit against Palworld. Because if they win against Palworld, I guarantee you they come after games like this next. There won't be anything that's a solid competitor for Pokemon. You can see the inspiration between Pokemon and this. Now, there's enough differences in elements that I don't think you could easily mistake one for the other. But I think that same thing holds true about Palworld. I actually think Palworld's more different from Pokemon than this game is. So if they can beat Palworld, they could almost certainly beat this game. But it's a good game. Give it a shot. Try the demo. And if you like it, throw them a little bit of money and actually support a good developer. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Coromon. And if you've enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Otherwise, remember, if I can beat it, so can you.